this is our new video of the JavaScript tutorial. We're going to see how to output messages on the web browser or on the screen with JavaScript. Right up till now, we've seen where to place the JavaScript, why you use JavaScript, how to place it, and between which tags. So now we're going to see how to show something, display an output to the user. We're going to study four commands for that. One is document.write. The other one is get element by ID and the innerHTML. Is the innerHTML really the one that displays? The next one is going to be console.log, and the next one windows.alert. Okay, let's start with the one easier one, document.write. This is very easy. As you can see, we have an HTML document here, and we just write document.write and between quotation marks and the text that we want to show. So now I have written 3 lines. Why? Because I want you to see the difference. In this line, I will first run the document so you can see what it shows. So it shows first hello, then number 8, then hello 44. And I'm going to show you the text to show what it's doing. On the first line, on the first command, I'm just writing hello, document.write, and the word every text you have to write between inverted quotation marks, which can be the double or the single quotation marks. JavaScript doesn't care about that. So all the text goes between those marks. As you see, it's displaying everything on the same line. So I can show you a quick trick now. I can write a break here, an HTML break here, either this one or the closing break, doesn't matter. And what this is going to do is it's going to write on the browser hello, and then the browser will identify that this is an HTML and do it. So I'll show you right now. Just run the document again, and it's writing hello and breaking the line. Next, on the next line, I am just writing 4 plus 4, and as it's both of them are numbers, it does 4 plus 4 and adds them up and just displays the answer. Okay, so that's easy. But if I'm going to have shown you here the mixture of both. If you put on the same document write text and numbers, they will the browser will think everything is numbers and write just the text. Okay, so for example, if I write here so that you can see it more clearly, I'll do the closing one so that you see it doesn't matter. So every element has to go with a plus. It's like a concatenate break with the hello, with the 4 plus 4, and you'll see he identifies this as, he takes that as text. So we'll run the text again. So hello and then text. Okay. This break is the one that we did on the other line. How can we put, another trick is how can we put a space here? So we can just concatenate an empty space. And then a 4 plus 4. Okay. Again, that will only add a space, and we still have 4 plus 4 as a number. Okay. So again, any text you write it with document.write, the brackets, quotation marks, a single or double, and the text goes there. If you want to do a mathematical operation with numbers, you don't put the quotation marks. And if you mixed numbers and text, it will consider all of them are text. And you can add different things by just writing the plus, which he will consider. If it's text, he will just concatenate at it afterwards. If it's numbers, he will. If it's just numbers, he will add them up. Okay, so that's a simple way to output something on the screen. Um, we are so I'm going to show you the next way, which is the inner HTML. For the inner HTML, what we do is on our HTML we write, for example, a first. I'm going to show you what this does first. So result is and hello. Result is being displayed by HTML, and then I have a line here which has a name. This line could be it's a paragraph, but it could be a div, it could be any HTML element, which I call with my ID. And then on the JavaScript, I use document get element by ID and call that ID. This is a very useful command because you can call any HTML element by this command. And then inner HTML says write the following in the write the following where that ID was. So what I'm doing is writing hello here, and you can see that it does result is, and then this is the paragraph. If I inspect it, this is the paragraph called here. Yeah. So inner HTML is useful if you want to put some text on on an HTML element. Um, for example, let's see if I complicate this. Yeah, well, I have done the same here. On the next file, I have done the same. I've just used inner HTML, but instead of using it in the script, I have done it directly so that you can see on the HTML. So I've done HTML, the result is, HTML again, the paragraph, I have called it here. And when you click on that, it runs this JavaScript. Okay. And what I'm doing is please get the element by here, which is the same one. You can do it on any other element. And write 4 plus 4, which should be which should produce an 8. A word of advice: in this type of commands where you're using double quotation marks, use the single ones inside, or you will get it all mixed up. Okay, so don't use double and double again, because it will give you errors probably. So I'm going to show you what the write 3 does first. So this file, the result is, that's written by HTML here, and then it says it has an HTML thing called click here, paragraph, and if you click here, it should do this JavaScript code. So click here, and it does 4 plus 4. If we do, see, it writes 4 plus 4 or hello. Yeah, I could do, it should work too. Yep. See, as it's, I don't put the quotations as its number, and it adds that up. I could do the same thing, just changing the ID here and placing it here. It would change the word there. You'll see. So now I get the result is click here. When you click here, it changes the other ID because that's the one I called. Okay, so document get element by ID calls the ID, the HTML ID that you have named, and then inner HTML writes whatever you want there. As I said, you can just put text if you want. Not, you see, double doesn't work correctly. Okay, so I can just do the same thing here, and it writes hello. Yeah. So inner HTML is also comes out very handy. Um, so I've done the same thing here with instead of doing inner HTML, I've done document write. But be careful about this. So I'm going to show you. This is the 3A. So again, we get the similar thing. Result is click here. Result is click here. When you click, it should write. Um, so I wouldn't need an ID here because it's not calling anything by ID. It will write the 4 plus 4. Okay. So I'll say 8 because it makes more sense. Reload it. So if we click here, this is something that you have to be very aware of. Why did it delete everything? Be very careful with document write because if you run it after an HTML has been read, and then I'll place it again. The first time it reads the result is, and click here, and then the HTML is finished. If you write a document right now, it will delete everything. Why didn't it do it before? Because on our first document write, it was reading and writing at the same time. It hadn't finished the HTML, what it's called a DOM. But now if you do it afterwards, it deletes everything. Okay, so be very careful with that, where you place the document right or how, and using our HTML if you're going to substitute HTML content on your website. Okay, so another way to display content is console.log. Console.log, what console.log will do is display. It's useful for debugging. It will display the content on our console on the browser. Okay, so we have run this file, number 4. We don't get anything here, but if we right click and inspect and go to the console like I showed you in the first video, sorry, we get an error, and on line 8. Oh yeah, of course, of course. So if we run the file here, we don't get nada, we don't get anything on the HTML, but if we inspect it and run the console, it does hello 8 and the other display, same that we showed at first, but it shows it on our console. So this is good if we're trying out a script, we don't know what it does really, and we want to see, or if we want to display something, a variable in not in our document, but in our console, and see how it's working. So for example, if you want to see if something is um, so you can do document write hello, and then see if console.log writes number 8, if it's adding up correctly. So if I do it now, I see hello there, and I see that it's adding up correctly, so I can see if it works. Right now it doesn't make much sense, but if we're using variables, it might be a good idea to or arrays, it might be a good idea to display the value of an array or a variable on the console log and see if it's producing whatever we want. For example, if we're adding up 3 or 4 numbers or doing several mathematical operations, we might want to display something in between to see if it's doing it correctly. Okay, so console log is good if you're debugging your program or while you're programming. And the last of our output JavaScript functions is Windows Alert. This is very easy. So I'll show you. This displays something on our as a pop-up on our screen. As you see, I have displayed the HTML and then that. The command is windows.alert, but you can remove the windows and it works the same. It displays the same thing. Okay, so even though the command is windows.alert, we can just put alert. Again, parentheses, quotation marks, and the text if it's text, or without quotation marks if it's numbers. Okay. So as a conclusion, you have document write, which you have to be careful with, um, both when you're writing text or numbers, or if you mix both. You can write the breaks or the HTML code in between quotation marks, and the browser will understand that. You get the inner HTML, which you have to use with the get element by, and it's useful to write content in our already produced HTML. And you can, all of those elements, you can either write them in a script or a function, as we will see afterwards, or directly on our HTML elements. Okay, and then we can use the console log to write things on our console, and we can use um, Windows Alert to produce pop-ups. Um, to finish, I'm going to show you very quickly a useful uh, mm, a use of these elements very quickly with a button element. So, for example, we can produce here a button element called and we say click here, and we close the button element, and we can say on click. So we can say on click do this. So on click do this. Change this mark. Yep. And we can delete that. So button on click here. I'll use a single ones here too because it's easier. That's that. Click here button, and that's it. Okay, so this one, it's number 2. So if we go here to number 2 and reload it, we get result is click here. There's all this HTML and then HTML button click here. And when we click there, it should run the JavaScript and produce hello on the other line. See? So that's very useful. Um, Mixing get element by ID and inner HTML or document write is very useful. And as you can see, we can start creating dynamic content, which will make our website nicer. Okay. On our next video, we will talk about variables, arrays, maybe objects, and explain how we can save values on those elements.